class 9. My name is Jane Zodingliani. I'm your SS teacher and I'll be taking your SS1, that is history portion. And today, to start with your online class, we'll first start with your chapter 1, that is the French Revolution.
Okay, French Revolution. Revolution means a forcible overthrow of a government or social order. Revolution kan ti chuan buai na nena sarkar in thlak thut na French ram khan ti nge engwangin nge revolution angai na chan a chan chu French ram po kha lalro rel na nuaya anom ve ani. They were under the monarchical rule. Monarchy is a form of government in which a person, the monarch, is the head of state. Okay, French Revolution, it is probably the most important topics of the world history because it has influenced the modern world to a huge extent. Okay, let us begin by knowing what exactly is the French Revolution. So, the French Revolution was a 10-year period of events in France from 1789 to 1799 that leads to wide-ranging political and social change not only in France but also on the entire modern world. The 19th and 20th century had been hugely influenced by the French Revolution and its ideas. What the revolution did was it abolished the monarchy. There was a king earlier in France, so now after this revolution there was no more king. France was made a republic. Republic is a country or a nation set in which head of state is elected and is not hereditary. It means the head of state earlier was king, but now he was elected. Finally, after some years, this republic ended in dictatorship of Napoleon Bonaparte. Dictatorship kan ti chuan mani thu chau manga rorel tu. So, it started with monarchy, with king. Then it became a republic during French Revolution, and finally during the French Revolution itself, Napoleon took over France and he became a dictator. So the revolution ended up again under dictatorship. Okay, now we came to the causes of this French Revolution. There are lots and lots of theory regarding the causes of this French Revolution. Historians has given many causes. It has been studied for past 200 years. But even today, after 20 years, people are still writing books on the causes of this French Revolution. But for our purpose, to make it simple, I will divide into 4 parts, okay? Number 1, political cause. Number 2, social cause, economic cause, and then we go to intellectual cause, okay? And now, firstly, I will begin with the political causes. The ruling dynasty in France was the Bourbon dynasty. Bourbon rulers were often called as despots. What do you mean by despots? Despots is a dictator who has no power, anyone controlling him or whatsoever, no constitution, no parliament, no minister, nothing. Whatever the king wants to do, he will do. Whatever he wishes to do, he can do, and he will do it. So that is a despot, and he does not care about the people. The basic thing about despot is that they do not care about the greater growth of the society. Okay, they do not care for the welfare of the people. They only care about themselves. So this is why they were called despots. So there were two Bourbon kings during those period, namely Louis XIV from 1643 to 1715 and Louis XV from 1715 to 1774. Okay, they are often called as despots, for Louis XIV ruled for a long period of times from 1643 to 1715, almost 70 years. He was often called as absolute despots. No power kept him in check. Whatsoever, he centralized the power in France to a large extent. And he reduced the powers of the feudal lords. Remember, in the Middle Ages, in Europe, feudal lords had a lot of power. They want many government, but Louis XIV centralized the power of France and he reduced the power of these feudal lords. Okay, he also fought many wars. Lots of wars was fought under Louis XIV, and he won in many of these battles, and enhancing the stage of this France. And France won a lot of battle with him. But however, in a war, what did we need in a war? Money, isn't it? Money is always required, and as money was not there, so he took loans, and due to this, France went in debt to France went into a heavy debt due to the war of this Louis XIV. Okay, then we came to Louis XV. After the death of Louis XIV, he ruled in France between 1715 to 1774. During his time, the 7 Years' War was fought. It was fought with England. Also, Louis XV was not a very good administrator. He was not capable of this running the country in a very good manners, so that these problems of 7 Years' War was could not be solved. Okay, that was all about this Louis XV, and then we came to another king, that is Louis XVI. He ruled from 1774 to 1792. His intentions were good, but he did not bring bold reforms. Reforms were required because France's economy was failing very bad, but he could not make or take any decisions and keep on them. He backtracked from decisions. One day he took up one decision, and the next day he will say, no, let's not do it. Okay, mi duap vetak anidu meltiro. So his personality was like that. Also, his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, she was from Austria. She was a very bad advisor. The reason behind that, she was not in touch with the ground reality, how people lived and what are the difficulties of the people, and did not allow her husband to talk with the common people. Very bad, isn't it? Okay, on top of that, then there was a American War of Independence. So America was fighting with Britain from this 1776 to 70, and France helped America. The reason is that because it defeated them in 7 Years' War. Okay, means France also learned the ideas of these revolutions from American War of Independence. Okay, hemi chang hian ma niram ta na chanem ngai na alopia nga nge lalpai thak du na anlo nei ta ni. They wanted to change this France. Okay, And now we go to these social causes. Division of French society was called ancien regime. So, according to this ancient regime, the French society was divided into three parts. Okay, the first estate, the first estate, where the clergy, the church, the people of church, they constitute around this 1 lakh. That means they are around 10%. Okay, and then the second class were the nobility. They were the feudal lords, and then they constitute about 4 lakhs, and they were around 25%. And we go to the third estate. The third estate has everyone. They are artisans, factory workers, traders, lawyers, and political officials. They constitute around 2.7 crore, and their population is around 95%. Okay, and then from these two classes, that is the first and the second estate, no taxes were paid. Okay, they lead a very luxurious life, this lavish lifestyle, and then tax were paid only by the third estate. How heavy it would be, isn't it? Because most people, they were very, most people lived in a very miserable life and poor life, no political or social privileges. They were not given any social or political recognitions in the ancient regimes. Their life, the life of the third estate was very, very miserable. Okay, now we go to the economic cause. So the rising populations of France, which was 2 crore in 1700, and it has gone up to about 2.8 crore in 1789. So when increase in more population, we need more food. We need more food to feed them, to feed the people, isn't it? So these people are increasing, and the land is the same, and there was no scientific advancement in agriculture. So the land is given the same amount of grains that was given in 1700. So these population explosions cannot be sustained. So populations increase, and if no food to feed the people, what will the people do? They will die of famine, isn't it? So it happens a lot of time during those periods. There was hard winters, crop failures, food prices increase. This leads to famine. This happened in 1789 as well. So prices of these essential commodities rise, and poor people cannot afford this, and people died of the starvations. So because of all these reasons, the peasants and the common people were angry, and no advancement in technology. Half of the total budget went to debt repayment due to 7 years war. So the common people were angry, and the farmers were dying of hunger. Okay, that's all about these economic causes. Okay, then we came to the intellectual cause. The 17th and 18th century are the age of this enlightenment. Enlightenment means awakening to the true nature of reality. Many philosophical thinkers, they started rational thinkings. They came and developed the science, the philosophy. They started rational thinkings. They wrote books about it. These famous philosophers were John Locke. He was a British philosopher. Then there was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He wrote about people's sovereignty. Then there is Immanuel Kant. He was a German philosopher. Then there was Montesquieu. He was a Frenchman. He wrote about the separation of church and the state. He says that the church and the state should be completely separated. Then there is Voltaire. He wrote about the freedom of speech and expressions. So all these are radical thinkers. They are intellectuals. They wrote books, and their books were spreading far and wide. People in France came to know about these ideas, and it was since the advent of this printing press, books were printed widely and spreading them easily. So this intellectual started to question the king's right to rule, his mandate from God, role of the Catholic Church. Okay, all this, let's see what the king says, okay? The king says that we have mandate from God, mandate from heaven. God asks to rule over this country, these nations, kingdom, or the people of this area. We have been assigned by God, so it is our duty to follow God's instruction. This is all what the king says, isn't it? Okay. But let's see what the people says, okay? But the people started to question them. Who has given you this authority? Why do you rule over us? What is the proof that God has given authority to rule over us? What is the rule of the church? And all these questions, such questions were very difficult to answer for the king, isn't it? And the church. So questions were started to get popularity among the people by newspapers, by books of philosophers, and the saloon discussion is going on, discussing ideas. They read books, newspaper, and then they began to get consciousness, okay? Okay, lastly, let's see the timeline of this French Revolution. So, the timeline of this French Revolution goes like this. In 1789, the King of France, Louis XVI, called the Estates General. Then in 1789 to 91, the National Assembly ruled over France. In 1791 to 92, the Legislative Assembly ruled for 1 year, then it was dissolved itself 1 year. And in 1792 to 95, the National Convention was formed. This National Convention ruled for 3 years. During this time, there was 1 year that was called the Reign of Terror from 1795 to 98. Then there was Directory rule, and finally in 1799, there was a coup d'etat by Napoleon Bonaparte. And he started his military dictatorship in France. Okay. Ole khati zongka voina kan zir thai chuni se. And for your homework, I would like to give you 2 short answer. Ka explain na chan hian in lo try don ya. Oh. Okay, number 1 is who was Louis XVI ti le? And the second one is, what were the problems of the third estate in Lo Tridonia? Okay, stay home, save life, do regular physical exercise, and always keep in touch with your books.